Hello, everybody. Ted Huntington here for another book reading. Today I will be reading Candace Adams' new book, The Witch Hunter. She doesn't belong there. He can't let her go. There's a pre-order sale going on now for The Witch Hunter on Amazon. Check it out. The ebook special is $1.99, so check out that pre-order special of The Witch Hunter. And now chapter 1 of The Witch Hunter, Taryn's lecture. The woman standing at the podium had the attention of everyone in the room. The sensible black pencil skirt and navy blue ruffled blouse she had painstakingly chosen for this evening hugged every curve of her body. She had bought short black heels and wore them without hose, and she hoped she hadn't overdone it. Dressing for an occasion had never been her strong suit. She had her long brown hair piled loosely in a bun on the back of her head, with a few stray tendrils that refused to be tamed. Black-rimmed reading glasses framed her oval face. She didn't need makeup and didn't care to take the time to apply it. That was time better spent on important things like coffee or internet research. She tapped the mic with 2 fingers, checking to see if it was on. The speakers at every corner of the hall echoed her finger taps in response. Hawthorne Hall had beautiful vaulted ceilings. It had been renovated recently, with the smells of fresh paint and sawdust still lingering. Light blue walls complemented the gray planks that covered the floor. She had dreamed of speaking here from the time she was a child, when her father would talk about lectures he had given there during his time as an educator. She devoured every book she could find on historical events and cultures. Other children her age cared more about playing outside, dressing and undressing Barbie dolls and video games. However, she knew she was destined for something more. She was an old soul. At least that's what her family called her. She always thought it was just a polite way of saying she was weird, without directly saying it. It didn't bother her, though. By the time she started high school, there wasn't anything in her history book she couldn't elaborate on. Her teachers adored her, her classmates ignored her, and she couldn't be bothered with either. Her parents had been thrilled when she was accepted to Harvard on a history scholarship. They were equally as shocked when, after a year, she chose to take a break from school to travel to the places she had been reading about all her life. When she stepped off the plane in the London Southend airport, she felt like she was home. All the other places she intended to see while overseas fell to the wayside. Coming from Boston, she grew up with tales of the Salem witches, and it had interested her since she was a child. She ended up spending the entire year in Essex, researching and documenting anything she could find pertaining to the infamous witch trials, especially anything on Matthew Hopkins, the witch hunter general himself. Having just returned to the States a prior month, this evening would be the culmination of everything she had learned there. It was really her former professor, Dr. Chandler, head of the history department, that made it possible for her to speak here. He always got his way. He had kept in touch by email for the duration of her trip and was truly enthralled with her work. When she returned, he called her, inviting her to give a lecture on the research she had been sharing with him, much to her surprise. These positions were typically reserved for seasoned speakers with years of academic experience. This didn't seem to dissuade people from wanting to hear what she had to say, though. She accepted the honor and spent the next few weeks piecing together her thoughts on paper, hoping she wouldn't come across as a bore. This was her first public speaking event, and tickets had sold out almost immediately. All 200 seats had filled in less than 2 days. Students, desperate to attend, had pestered the faculty, hoping that more tickets would become available. The university had not anticipated how much interest the topic would generate. Now, all eyes were on the pretty young woman as she took a sip of water. This was sure to be an interesting evening indeed. A woman with big green eyes entered the hall, and a man in the front row offered his seat up to her. One of the best seats in the house, it was in the center of the row directly before the podium. She accepted the seat and folded her long, well-manicured hands in her lap and crossed her ankles with elegance. A few men glanced in the woman's direction, appreciating her beauty. She was a bit short, but made up for her lack of height with thick 5-inch black thigh-high boots over skin-tight dark denim jeans. These were paired with an earthy orange peasant blouse tied together in the front, showing a generous amount of cleavage. A black leather choker rested against her slender throat. Her lips were painted blood red, and the black kohl around her eyes accentuated the alluring green pools of her irises. She waited patiently for the room to settle and the lecture to begin. Taryn noticed her immediately. Something in the startling beauty's demeanor was predatory, and her gaze left Taryn unsettled. Pulling her eyes off the red-haired beauty, she cleared her throat, and a small smile tugged on the corners of her mouth. There were so many people. The hall was full. Some attendees even packed around the outer edge. Pulling her eyes off the red-haired beauty, she cleared her throat, and a small smile tugged on the corners of her mouth. There were so many people. The hall was full. Some attendees even packed around the outer edges, wherever they could find some space. The lights were dimmed, and a spotlight trained on her. A large white screen dropped down behind her for her accompanying PowerPoint, and she looked down at her hands. The low voices died off when they noticed she was ready to speak. The dark cherrywood podium was one of the only things in the hall that hadn't been renovated, and she was struck with awe that she was touching the same material that so many great historians had touched. It both overwhelmed and elated her to know that she had earned this. Her handwritten note cards were stacked carefully beside her water bottle, but she left them there. She had taken great care over the previous weeks to memorize the words she wanted to say. She took a deep breath. "Well, here goes nothing," she mumbled to herself. "Good evening, everyone. My name is Taryn Guthrie. Welcome to my lecture on the 16th century Inquisition." And that's chapter 1. Check it out on Amazon. As I said, there's a pre-order sale going on for $1.99. The Witch Hunter by Candace Adams.